In the dusty outskirts of Redwater Valley, evening winds sang across empty fields and rattled old window shutters as if whispering secrets that only the prairie grass could keep. In that quiet hush, Maddie Porter trudged along the wooden boardwalk outside the general store, clutching her basket of dry goods and keeping her eyes low because she'd grown used to the glances, the whispers, the snickers about her heavy size and clumsy walk. Even though none of those people knew the warmth in her chest or the compassion, she carried like a secret flame. She shouldn't have been anywhere near the saloon barn when a horse thundered down the road with a cowboy leaning from its saddle, pale and shaking, tears glimmering like desert glass. Sheriff Will Hart, known for his stern eyes and rugged jaw, staggered toward her, clutching a blanket bundle in his arms. And though Maddie froze, unsure, the world slowed as he approached. "Maddie, please, can you nurse him just once?" "Undie," he rasped, voice raw, lifting the tiny, gasping baby swaddled under his coat, the infant's eyes squeezed shut, his breaths shallow like a candle burning low. And Maddie's heart kicked against her ribs because she'd heard of the orphaned child abandoned near the canyon. Rumors said his mother died of fever, his chance of survival fading fast. "He hasn't eaten in 2 days, the sheriff choked. "The midwife's sick, the doctor's away. All our women are traveling for a baptism in Carson Creek." "Maddie, you've always cared for town children. Please, just hold him close. Keep him warm. His body can't regulate heat." The request stunned her, humiliation prickling, but the baby's whimper cut deeper than any insult. She set her basket aside and carefully gathered the infant, her soft arms cushioning him, her warmth enveloping him instantly, and as she cradled him, his trembling slowed. Townsfolk emerged from porches, stunned at the sight. The girl they mocked offering the comfort none could. Maddie whispered gentle words, soothing the little chest that fluttered like a bird's wing. And as she kept him pressed safely against her, the baby's cries softened into quiet breaths. Fear melted into instinct, and she walked toward the sheriff's office with him, ordering hot water, blankets, and broth, like someone born for tenderness. Moments snowballed into hours as she rocked the child by lantern light, drenched in sweat but fueled by determination, and though exhaustion tugged at her eyelids, she refused to abandon him. Whispers drifted outside. "She's the only one who stepped up. Maybe we misjudged her. Look at how calm the baby is." But Maddie tuned them out. All she felt was the tiny heartbeat pressed to her chest, trusting her without question. Night deepened into a storm, wind thrashing shingles loose, and thunder cracked like gunfire, rattling the windows. But the baby slept secure. Near midnight, the sheriff returned drenched, hair plastered to his face, his eyes overflowing with gratitude, and when he saw the child breathing steady, life painted on cheeks once pale, he collapsed into a chair and wept, confessing everything. How the mother had stumbled into Redwater half dead, begging someone to save her child before fever snatched her soul. How the sheriff promised but couldn't get help fast enough. How guilt gnawed at him every waking moment. Maddie placed a steady hand on his shoulder, saying softly that survival often grew from unlikely soil. As dawn crept in, painting gold across the horizon, the town doctor rode back at full gallop, rushed into the office, checked the child, and smiled with relief. His temperature had stabilized. Because Maddie had kept him warm and fed broths carefully dip by dip, the news spread like wildfire. Shopkeepers approached her with free bread. Mothers thanked her, children hugged her legs, and the cruel whispers of yesterday evaporated into shame. When the mother's sister arrived days later, she tried taking the infant, but the baby wailed and squirmed until Maddie held him again, his tiny hands clinging to her shirt, calming instantly. The sister, humbled, asked Maddie to continue caring for him until she settled in town. Suddenly, Maddie's world bloomed with purpose. Early mornings collecting goat's milk, afternoons rocking him near sunlit windows, Evenings humming lullabies no one knew she could sing. Even her posture changed, shoulders lifting, chin rising, confidence trickling into the spaces loneliness once filled. Months passed, and the sheriff visited often under the excuse of paperwork. But truly to watch the bond between girl and child, he praised her strength openly, refusing to let others speak cruelty again. Once, when boys mocked her weight near the well, the sheriff glared them into silence, saying, "That girl saved a life. What have you ever done?" And they fled red-faced, shame lurking like an unwelcome shadow. Maddie didn't gloat. She only tightened her embrace on the baby, murmuring that kindness weighed more than any insult. As spring warmed the valley, the town held a festival, lanterns strung across fences, music twining through night air. Maddie walked among the booths with the baby giggling in her arms, strangers offering smiles instead of stares. The sheriff joined her, their hands brushing as fireworks crackled above, heartbeats sinking to each bright burst. Then a shout sliced through the joy. Bandits galloped toward town, guns flashing, horses snorting, villagers scattering. Maddie ducked into the sheriff's office, hiding the baby under the desk while bullets shattered windows. Fear clawed her throat, but she remembered the promise she'd made: protect him. She crawled to the back door, bolted it, then returned to shield the child with her body. Outside, the sheriff rallied men, shooting into darkness until the raiders fled. Smoke cleared. Townsfolk emerged trembling, but alive. When Maddie stepped out, clutching the unharmed baby, applause erupted, and the sheriff proclaimed, "This town stands tonight because Maddie Porter had more courage than fear." From then on, no one questioned her worth. She became the valley's guardian of children, receiving blankets, toys, and letters thanking her for teaching them compassion. At sunset one evening, while the child slept against her shoulder, the sheriff walked up and gently asked if she'd consider becoming his official partner in town orphan care. Tears welled in her eyes, not from sorrow, but fulfillment, because for the first time she felt seen, needed, and celebrated. She nodded quietly, and he squeezed her hand, promising never to forget what she'd done. As cicadas hummed, she whispered to the baby that the world could be cruel, but soft hearts shaped it better than calloused hands ever could. Later, sitting on the porch, she spoke to the viewers. Yes, the ones watching from afar through screens and scrolls, saying life is full of doubters, but even one act of courage can flip a whole town's story. She urged them gently. If you felt something in this tale, hope, strength, belief, don't let it end here. Tap subscribe, join this journey, and let stories like this remind you that weight can't measure worth, rumors can't define destiny, and love can save lives. And with that final whisper, lantern light flickered across her smile as the baby slept safe in her arms, while Redwater Valley, once blinded by prejudice, learned that heroes come in all shapes, sizes, and shadows, but the brightest glow from the warmth they choose to spread.